are trying to do the right thing. But with news, let's take something. If you say a certain kind of automobile does not explode when it's hit from the rear, somebody says, well, that's not news. But if I say a certain kind of automobile will explode when hit from the rear, you say, you're kidding me, I need to know that. So it's tough for us sometimes to strike that balance that gives you context and perspective.
I am pleased to introduce David Christian Hamblin, who is editor-in-chief of the World Times, the Good News newspaper. This is published in Albuquerque?
Santa Fe.
Santa Fe. And your circulation extends beyond our shores, does it?
That's true. We're international.
Yeah. And you put this together because you yourself were depressed at one time, do I understand?
Yes, I was. Unlike the gentleman sitting up here, you can tell by the way we're dressed, I'm not a professional journalist. I had a business in upstate New York that during the recession went under after 5 years. And I went into a depression that I thought would just last maybe a few weeks. But indeed, it lasted about 1.5 years. And during that time, every time I would turn on the news and programs like 48 Hours, I would just, feel helpless, like, why do I want to live on this planet? There's nothing to live for. And eventually, I was inspired to go out and do some research, find good news and human interest stories that were happening around the world. And indeed, I found a lot of stories that weren't being told. And
here's about a picture lead above the fold, a Pittsburgh heir who gave his fortune to care for the people of Haiti. Here is your second section. Doctors perform open-heart surgery on endangered baby orangutan. Now, there's a lead for you, Howard. Choosing Life, Awanza's Miracle Healing. An interview with Jamie Sams. All good news. A benefit concert for girl draws donations, attention. Enterprising 9-year-old becomes talk show celebrity. Is the news coming in over the transom? Have you got good news wires? How do you get them? No kidding.
It's on AP. A lot of these stories come off AP.
Right.
And we have reporters around the country and around the world that are writing human interest stories for us. And what I believe is that the truth has to be shown. Yes, we have to see the murders and the rapes and the incest stories, but I think we also have to see the other side of it because of that.
Yes. Well, there's a hand for your attempt to make us feel better. When we come back, more with Dan and Howard Kurtz of the Washington Post and CCO, my favorite station in Minneapolis, with its attempt to ensure that news footage is edited so it can be viewed by children on the 5 o'clock news. And we'll be back in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Nancy from Secure Horizons. I know a lot of you have questions about...
You overplayed Watergate, you people.
Oh, these people did that.
Whitewater, sorry. You overplayed Whitewater. You know why? You know why you focused on Whitewater and you went after it and you went after it and you went back to it and you went after it again and you couldn't, I'm telling you, the heat was turned up. You did it because you don't respect this president. Because you look at his ratings and you know he's weak and you know he's vulnerable and you pile on. And I'll tell you another reason why you fixated on Whitewater, and we're going to have a mountain giving birth to a mouse here with this report. You are squeamish about reporting sex stuff like Jennifer Flowers and Paula Jones. So rather than key in on that, you go overboard on Whitewater. I asked for your comment, Howard Kurtz.
I happen to agree that, that Whitewater was more of a approved for primetime kind of scandal. But also, Phil, it's not just Bill Clinton. Journalists love scandal. It's like war. It's like bad news. It gets our juices flowing. Yeah. You don't win any prizes for reporting. The president did a great job yesterday. And so I think the press did overplay Whitewater. I think most people think that. I will plead guilty on that point.
Have you underplayed Paula Jones and...
Paula Jones is a difficult story because most of us don't know whether these allegations are true or not. Obviously, the president...
we don't know whether the allegations made by Judge Hale are true or not yet either, presumably.
Yeah, I think we were slow in reporting it, but I don't think it was underplayed. I think every person in America knows about Paula Jones at this point.
Well, every person in America knows about Whitewater at this point as well. I mean, would you have any thoughts on this?
Well, two. First of all, I don't think that President Clinton has always gotten credit for things for which he deserves credit. Deficit reduction, NAFTA, those kinds of things. But Howard makes a very good point. when he says we in the press, we reporters, and I include myself, do all of these things, we do them because the belief runs strong that you and you and you and you are interested. You may say you aren't interested, but when Whitewater's at the top of the paper or leads the newscast with the inference planted by the president's political opponents and ideological enemies that, well, there was a suicide involved, you know. There wasn't any suicide involved. There's certainly no evidence it was, no credible testimony there was, but the public, our viewers and listeners, Howard and the Washington Post readers, they're interested. And if you want to know why there's so much bad stuff on television, I accept my responsibility for that, but the public has to accept theirs, because if they didn't buy it, if they didn't watch it, if they didn't read it, trust me, folks, take it to the bank, it would not be on.
Yeah, but Dan, I got to take issue with you. Got to take issue with you. I agree as far as it goes. The fact of the matter is there are two ways to exercise representative leadership in this country, and Congress does it all the time. You go, I wonder what the public thinks, and then you merely reflect what you think the public thinks. Right. And sometimes we do that in journalism.
Oh, no, a lot of times we do that.
A lot of times. Most of the time, maybe. Yes. But leadership is when you say, yes, I care about what the public thinks, but I have a responsibility because as a journalist, I have access to more facts. I have been trained to put them into perspective, and I have to go beyond just what the public, what I